textbooks, and that was the course, the mode of the study. Today, our kids, they are studying in tablets and laptops using the internet. And using the internet, and most of their classes are in virtual mode. Yeah. Can we try the mic? That's why I just wanted to make sure, ensure that the last people sitting in the last row, can they hear us? Oh, that's exactly the thing. See, the whole team is working on that. So it's the recording is actually, this is for the mic, for the recording. Yeah. The mic. Yeah, thank you. Hello. Am I audible? No. Am I? Hello?
Mike's on.
No.
It's working. And that one is working.
This one is. I think this one. Hello? Now, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. I think it would be a good idea to repeat the question, if you may.
So my first question is to Mr. Ahmed Javed. In light of your experience, how has technology evolved from the past to the present, and how will it continue to evolve in the foreseeable future?
Right. So I think it's a question is quite broad, and answer going to take some time. So in brief, what we need to understand that past couple of decades, which if we consider the technological evolution which happened in the past, like in couple of decades or more, it has impacted each and every aspect of the life. Considering the healthcare sector today, if you see the hospital systems, it's been completely different as compared to 20 years back. Education industry, I mean, when we were in the school, we used to study from the textbooks. Now our kids, they are attending the classes from the Zoom and the virtual classes. So it has impacted each and every endeavor of the life, whether it is in transport industry, or you take it in a travel industry, or so forth. Now, what we need to understand here, the pace of the change, the evolution, with how much pace it's impacting our, the evolution and the new discoveries in the technology is of so high pace, but not the adoption. Let's take a typical example that cloud was invented almost like more than 20 years back, but now we are, we are feeling that some of the companies, they are started feeling comfortable in migrating to the cloud. So that adaptability to the new technologies is basically a challenge for the humans. So which is basically preventing us as humans to accept the new technologies, because each new technology brings its own risks along, which impacts the human life. Because as our respected speakers, they have highlighted a lot of like security, the concerns which is impacting the community, including the privacy concerns, cybersecurity breaches, and so forth. So I think the future, what I see of the technology is has to be more robust, resilient, and secure. How we can do that? Because the main role players are the humans. And the security leaders, as our respected Dr. Malik has spoke on, the leadership qualities of the cyber leader, that the people needs to be more aware of the risks, what technologies are bringing to them, and how we can deal with them. Considering the current geographical or geopolitical situation of the region, in particular to Qatar, in relevance to the FIFA, we are exposed to more than hundreds of billions of attacks in few weeks' time, cyber attacks. If we compare the cyber stats with the last World Cup, which was hosted by Russia, was like on the day of the final match, it was the attacks were around somewhere more than 25 billion cyber attacks in the same day. So how much the stress gonna be on the infrastructure? So these are the concerns what we need to take, and more we can talk about the challenges which are bringing by the emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, IoT, and so forth, that we can talk more from along with as we go proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. We'll be covering those.
I think without mic we are okay.
Am I audible?
Yeah, we are okay without mic.
Thoda sa, let's speak little louder.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ahmed, for your input. We'll be covering those aspects in the later questions. Mr. Imran, your perspective, please.
I think basically the covering of what Dr. Also mentioned, that we are going to see a lot of new technology coming in the areas of IoT that is significantly going to change. And even in this FIFA World Cup, the number of basically monitoring that is going on across Qatar, from environmental monitoring to the road monitoring to people's monitoring, it's significantly changed. And in the operational technology, there has been, and there is going to be a lot more of that coming in. Now that is going to create a lot of information. He also mentioned about quantum computing, right? And that is going to be significantly changing, but that is still, as he said, as Ahmed said, that there are things that happens in terms of development, and there are adoption that takes certain number of years. So I think quantum technology on a consumer level or industry level is going to be some time before we actually see the light of day. But that is what we are seeing is the significant amount of increase of the information that is getting generated, and then we are seeing AI. And these two in combination is going to change the way the professionals in the engineering field is going to be impacted by. And that is something that should be considered, something that should be looked at. And in terms of the skill set in respective areas, as also Dr. mentioned, that the IT used to be a support function. Now, you cannot have any job if you don't know IT. Even if you do a secretary job, even if you do like a finance and HR or any areas that you do, even the core businesses including, you need to know IT. There is no escape from it. That is part of the thing. So what impact of that is going to be is that what you are going to see out of that is people basically not going to have like engineers in a lot of engineering positions, and as such, you are going to see that the business people will take that skills more. As the new generation going to come up, they don't need the IT people as such, but they will need people with IT skill set. They will need people with the respective skill sets. So it means that your roles needs to be really upgraded to be something more than what you do. In the field of IT or other engineering field, also to be some extent it will be impacted. A higher level of roles that needs to be really looked into. Means that one thing, never stop learning. Never stop learning. The moment you stop, you go fall down. The only way for you to stay up is to continue in your learning, and the technology, especially in these two areas, is going to be impacted, but every areas, the improvement is going to happen that involves mostly areas of information and how that information is used to automate many of the activities that is going to be there.
Thank you, Mr. Imran. Mr. Farhan, your perspective, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
So thanks for having me on the stage. I don't think this is working.
No, Farhan, it's not working.
Can you?
Just
It looks good. It looks good though, right? Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, good. So, just to give you, I mean, it's a very broad question. So I'll give you a generic answer, and you guys have, mashallah, given good insights into cybersecurity and privacy aspects. I'm coming more from a generic background in terms of IT and telecoms. I've been fortunate, that I've been working on the operator side as well as the vendor side. So I work with British Telecom, with Warid Telecom, and Saudi Telecom, etc. And then Huawei for the last 8-9 years, who were at the forefront of 5G technology and bringing it to the world as we've seen today. I think the best way to understand this question and answer is basically around looking at the trends of what's been happening, as my colleagues have mentioned. If we look at it from a industrial revolution perspective, which took place over the last 100 years or so, we have a situation where we went from steam engines to water production in terms of pushing out mechanization into integrated circuits and electronics. And now I think what we're living and experiencing is a very unique and unprecedented time where we're in the information age, which you've correctly highlighted. So over the last 20-25 years of my career, it's turned into information. So the third and the fourth revolutions are now information revolutions rather than industrial revolutions. So I think the way we're panning into the future now is effectively a complete information takeover. And the reason I say we're living in an unprecedented time is because we have no choice but to deal with this information age now, whether we like it or not. So technology is here to stay. It's engulfing us, it's drowning us in our lives, and we've got no way to run away from it apart from having to deal with it. So that leads me on to my second point, which was the trend for 2025, if you believe it or not, is around 100 billion devices will be connected. 100 billion devices in the next 4 years or so, 3 years. So 2015, they said there's around 20 to 30 billion already connected. So within the next, from 15 to 25, they're expecting that to quadruple, right? So 4 or 5 times. So if you can imagine, what's happening here. How many people on this earth at the moment? 7 billion, 8 billion or something. So you've already got 3 times as many devices connected. And then you've got a situation where it's moving to 100 billion devices being connected. So I guess, from a broader perspective, the IoT aspect of it is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And from a trend perspective, having worked closely with 5G, the wireless aspect is going to be a key differentiator in terms of moving forward. Everything is easily connected when it comes to wireless. So 5G, 6G is going to be here to stay. And with regards to enterprise and industry that we're talking about, every company will have to adopt and embrace the digital transformation, right? So again, the same point I'm making. So humans are going to be left behind, effectively. I don't mean it in a morbid way, but it's a fact. And the enterprise side of things has to be digitized for any company or organization to survive, right? And cybersecurity is obviously a key aspect of that because it's going to be nothing but cyber. So whether it's people, supply chain, employees, systems, everything has to be digitally connected. And if the companies aren't adopting the technology, then they're going to get left behind, quite simply. So I just thought I'd share a few feelers and feeders to give the question some context.
Thank you so much for that valuable input,
Yeah.
Mr. Farhan.
Thanks.
Mr. Ishtaq.
Yeah. So actually, most of the answers they are given. So in terms of priority, I'll just tell that what the priority will be there in next coming year, for example. So more focus will be of the organization on the cyber security because there are a lot of threats and governance and rules are coming up. And even there are certain frameworks which are developed for local and government bodies, but which is going to be implemented for the other SME sectors as well, actually. So cyber security is going to be the key priority as far as the organization focus is concerned. And definitely the second thing for me, which I'm also focusing, is the cloud. So what we feel is actually organization will be moving towards cloud. Maybe still there's no much focus, but in coming years definitely they'll be moving towards migrating their data centers, either the primary or the secondary or the third data center to the cloud. So what I feel is cloud is going to be the next most important priority, and then definitely 5G, as other colleagues mentioned, and the IoTs are going to be coming in near future as well. But the priority-wise, cybersecurity and the cloud are going to be there in the pipeline. So organization need to think for those and then plan for those areas actually.
Thank you, Mr. Ishtiaq. I would like to introduce a second question to the panel. How is technology an integral component in the preparations for the FIFA World Cup in Qatar? And I would like to start off with Mr. Ahmed for this.
See, considering the FIFA and the nature of this global event, on which we gonna be attracting a lot of all the global attention, and the use of advanced technologies, including the cloud and IoT devices and 5G as well in the media, when we are using the most advanced technologies, considering meta technologies is being used as of now as well as we speak. If we don't know the meta technologies, that includes the virtual reality, augmented reality, MR, mixed reality technologies are being used. Oculus is one of the example. So all of these technologies which we are using currently in order to broadcast or record or cover the event, or to use such technologies for the marketing purposes as well. Everything what is used here requires a strong effort or really a really strong effort in order to secure that information which is being used with the help of cybersecurity. So far, what we have been using is cloud as an option to use as an alternate for the infrastructure. But now today is the time to accept the reality is that we need to leverage the power of what cloud is bringing. We need to call such solutions as cloud empowered, not cloud based, because that gives us a geography free access, that gives you more robust and resilience in the systems, and the cost of operability as well. A lot of organizations during Corona period have actually completely moved from a physical mode of working to virtual online because of help of cloud. So considering that the event which gonna be intense, and we have the global eyes over this thing, we need to make sure that during this time when there's a lot of anti I would say the spam or the phishing activity is going to happen, and a lot of new technologies which will be introduced or for the marketing purposes may not work perfectly as expected, because I don't think that there's an adequate awareness campaigns have been executed. That's one of the element which we need to consider, because that event is for the public. And such technologies which is I usually refer our smartphone as a second level of atomic bomb of the world, because the mass population has been controlled through the smartphones, social media channels and these things. And most of the I would say unethical activities are happening through those channels as well. So that's one of the things that the recipient, the end user, a citizen or a resident of Qatar and the region should be aware of the related challenges. And I think the Qatar government should be given a big applause of whatever campaigns or the efforts they have invested in order to secure the infrastructure. From past 3 years, the whole government sector was just investing their efforts, and they have burnt the money in order to develop such a secure and resilient infrastructure to hold that to accept, or what do you call the stand on the stress level which is expected to generate that kind of traffic. So this is the second aspect which is there, that we have given that level of infrastructure, but at the client side, the end user side, the devices, we need to be more aware of what exactly technology we are interacting with. We should not do accept all, or while installing any application that FIFA is giving the free lotteries, and now there's application just join there, and it asks you accept all, and everyone is accepting all and installing, and we are being hacked, and all the privacy breaches are happening all around without taking the consent. So awareness is one of the elements which we need to work on, which has not been done enough. At each and every forum, it needs to be taken up. And the third and last thing is like, the cyber or related professionals who know about these technologies and who know about the related challenges should contribute into such forums to enhance the awareness, so that unaware victims can be reduced.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Imran.
I'll actually divide this technology usage for the FIFA in three parts. So one is pre-event, means that what is the Qatar did in terms of before the FIFA World Cup in implementing technology to support the game. So if you really look into from that perspective, you see that there is significant amount of information sharing that government has instituted between private and government sectors. For example, Qatar government basically has decided that there are about 300 essential items that everyone who will be in Qatar would be needed during the FIFA World Cup, right? So they wanted to make sure that though there is no supply shortage of that. So it means that because country has to prepare for it. So they created that, and being able to have that information to the point that how many eggs are in Qatar, they know. And how many eggs are coming in the next few months, they know. Right? So that level of information sharing has happened in Qatar. They instituted that we don't really see on the side, but it's significant. The second part in the stadium. The stadium was built with the state of the art of the capabilities and technologies that instituted many different technology to really give the safety, security of the facility, but at the same time the enjoyment of the people who are going to be attending there, as well as being broadcasting that event to the globe. The third and most complex is how do I manage all these people coming in during that time, right? How do I manage the environment, and how do I really make sure that something bad doesn't happen? So significant investment in the security of around the country, significant monitoring capability that was created throughout the country to make sure that even if there is temperature drop that is expected to happen, they're using some AI also to predict if there is going to be a sandstorm coming in, looking through the sensor in all the different locations they have placed. So there is a lot of preparation they have done in terms of before that. Bringing someone coming in from the airport all the way to their hotels and to their facilities and taking them into the airport or into the stadium, making sure that along the way the traffic is also managed. So there is a lot of things that government has done as a technology, implementing this technology to make this happen. So I agree, given all of that, that is also, because it's all based on the information, there is a security concern. And that is something we have to see. I mean, any security professional will say that there is nothing called, I can block it. It's like, when can that really attack, basically can breaches may happen, right? So they have implemented, the Qatar government and the organizations like BEIN and others, using the FIFA cybersecurity framework, have tried to implement certain controls, certain requirements across the organizations who are critical for the success. You cannot protect everything. Crown jewel is what you protect, right? We talked about that. Who are the crown jewels of Qatar for the FIFA World Cup success? Focus on them. Qatar Airways, BEIN Sports, many others who are directly involved in that needs to be more secure. So the increase of the attack will happen, right? That we know that. Everyone knows that. And I believe that all our cybersecurity professionals are ready to not sleep for the next 1 month and a half. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Imran. Mr. Farhan.
Firstly, I'd like to echo the fact that Qatar has done an amazing job to get to where it's got to, and to bring many aspects of technology together that some are seen and some are hidden, like you mentioned. I'll start with a security aspect to keep the theme going. One is like the fan ID, right? It's quite amazing what they've done with the hire card. I've got relatives coming in from UK, whatever. You know, that alone will get you into the country, will get you on a metro, will get you immigration done, you know, will get you police checks and secure checks, and all that will be done seamlessly. So that seamless experience is amazing, actually, and they've done a great job to bring that into fruition, right? So that's from a secure. I know there's obviously elements, I don't know, you guys can discuss maybe if that's easy to hack or not in terms of the hire app, if you've done that level of authentication or not. But from what I've seen at the moment, it's working quite well, right, for them in terms of the screening and side of things. Moving on to more of a pure technology play, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Al-Rihla, which is the semi-automated refereeing offside technology feature, which they've implemented in the stadiums. So they've got 12 cameras. This is first time, unprecedented. They've got 12 cameras operating at 50 frames per second, monitoring every player, okay, real time. Together with the football is transmitting real time as well, by the way, for the first time. So any offside questionable rule will be AI automatically defined immediately, instantaneously. Yeah? So that's a very unique feature that they've implemented. The other one is the VAR referee himself is always watching the screen, so the ball is continually communicating with that referee who's watching the screen to show the ball going behind the line or offside dimensions, also the throw-ins and all the rest of it on the side. The other one is the 974 stadium. I don't know if you guys know, but it's made out of 974 containers, which they're going to dismantle, and potentially that stadium will be gone from a very green and efficient perspective, and they'll relocate that into a third world country or whatever the case may be. So there's some very interesting elements that are taking place with regards to the technology. And the standard stuff is they're using electric buses for the first time in a World Cup. You've probably seen them moving around. They're using standard lithium-ion buses, which is, again, unprecedented, as well as the Nav Buddy, which is an app which gives you seamless navigation, tourist guide, all in one. And also the cooling, I think you mentioned, is for the first time first time obviously in the Middle East the World Cup's taking place, but they're managing, I think, 26 degrees centigrade at every part of the stadium, which is an amazing. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the stadium. It's pretty damn cold, even in summer, yeah, in the heat of summer. But I'll finish with just something that I'm personally working on. I'm VP for a company called Mozark. This is my plug now. You've done your plug, right? So I'm working for a company called Mozark, and it's very related to technology, actually. So what we're using for both Vodafone and Ooredoo, we've got a project going for World Cup, which is to monitor the quality of assurance and customer experience of everyone who attends the World Cup and the stadiums, for all the apps that are being used on the 5G network, whether they're Vodafone and Ooredoo. So it's a great thing that we're doing together with the operators of the country. And basically we're having, like if you're the top 10 apps that are being used by everybody, whether it's YouTube, WhatsApp, Insta, Twitter, whatever the case is, we're going to be monitoring it live during the match and feeding data back to the Amazon cloud with the Mozark AI engine analyzing it and giving sort of real-time stats to the operating companies as to how these applications are performing you can consider it an IoT perspective. So everyone's going to have a smartphone. We're basically mimicking the user experience from an outside-in approach, rather than typically it's done on an inside-out approach using network, data, servers, etc. We're doing it from an outside-in approach with live smartphones and application of the kits within the stadium. So that's something which is quite unique. First time it's being done in any World Cup as well in Qatar. So yeah, I'll leave it there, otherwise I'll be talking too much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Farhan. Mr. Ishtiaq.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I'll just focus on the cybersecurity and organization perspective only. So from the individual organization perspective, in order for them to be protected, they need to make sure their basics are right. So in terms of their security governance standards are in place, the team structure is in place. Similarly, on technology side, they have got cybersecurity technologies in place. So if these basics are in place, then definitely the organization should not be afraid of anything, unless until and plus The other thing what I find in the gap in the organization is that again from the basic side, something called the patch management and patching. So this is something very critical for the organization. So because you are maybe you have put millions of dollars security in the data center, but one of your PC or laptop can be compromised. So the security at every level has to be analyzed, and as I mentioned, your governance structure has to be there, which has to be strong. Your policy, procedure, processes, technology, which are required technologies like next generation firewalls, IPSs, DDoS protection, web application firewall. So these are the technologies. Sorry to using these terms. Actually, I'm not sure. So those technologies has to be in place, so which can protect your organization. And then what other weakness I find with the organization when I interact, there are certain features in these technologies which are like blocking features. So what I find, some organizations turn it off actually. So like I'll give you one example. Like there is one tool called IPS, which can detect intrusion coming in and can block it by itself. But I find some organizations, they turn it off because their application might be impacted, something else might be impacted. And similarly in the web application firewall, again they may have some application impact. So even the technologies are implemented there, but they are not being fine-tuned and being put into the best of the operating mode actually. So the basic housekeeping or your organizational model, means the organizational structure, as far as governance is concerned, technology is concerned, have to work in hand. And the only recommendation from my side is that they have to keep updating their patch level, and this is the what weakness I'm finding everywhere actually. Because there may be a PC sitting in an organization running XP, and there may be some PCs running maybe 7-month-old patch level, for example. There are some firewall which are not being updated, so which can be a compromising factor. So if the basic securities are in place and right, our organization should not be afraid of any threat or attack.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shah.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Ahmed, I would like to introduce the third question now. In your experience, what are the immediate technologies you see emerging post the FIFA World Cup?
See, very first thing, as our colleagues have already highlighted quite many. I mean, first of all, the emphasis is going to be on cloud adoption, first of all. Corona has not actually convinced, it's a wrong perception that Corona made organizations or people moving to the cloud. No, I mean, cloud was always been there, and organizations were been moving or migrating to the cloud. Corona just resulted in accelerating the migration. Cloud adoption is one. Because GCC was always been a very sensitive towards their own migrating or hosting their data on cloud because of several reasons, because geopolitical situation and so forth. But now cloud adoption has been accelerated big time. Google is here, Microsoft is here, Amazon is still thinking, I don't know what's their plan. Huawei cloud is already launched here and so forth. Second thing is the acceptance or the adaptability towards the meta technologies. So what our dear colleague has mentioned, a lot of technologies which has been first time been introduced in stadiums or covering that, of the applications covering such incident. One more is that virtual reality. The VR technologies such as you will see that in the opening ceremonies, you will see on the stadiums, the flying falcon. It's going to be the virtual. So that will be used at its extreme. And then AR, augmented reality, which is like in the physical world, they will host the virtual elements, and such as you can see the army tank standing or parked in the middle of the stadium. That's going to be virtual stuff that will be used in this event just for the marketing purposes and so forth. Third thing is the IoT, as exactly the enhanced use of the senses, because IoT is completely based on senses. It's the data feeds, and it's not the only thing which basically we use the sensors and they'll get the data feeds. It's all about the data crunching engine, the big data analytics engine, which we use to feed into the AI layer. And that's where the systems becomes intelligent, and that's Mosaic is doing the right thing. That means they are feeding into the applications of the social media platform, and the real time intelligence they are getting as big data analytics engine, and taking the decisions in the real time. And that's exactly going to happen in the covering or in a real scenario, covering a real time a football soccer match, where football itself will have a sensor. As you rightly said, that football will be speaking to the referee, which is, it will have a sensor which will be transmitting the data on the cloud, and there the data will be correlated, and referee will see the results. So that's exactly the applications which have been used first time in the history of humanity. And that's going to go on. This just to start with. In addition to that, I think the green energy or the petroleum industry has been completely being transformed. Recently, we know that Qatar Petroleum has changed their name. They have basically, I wouldn't say changed their direction, they have transformed into the bigger energy umbrella, where they are basically bringing a lot of applications of solar energy, green energy, and so forth. Electrical buses are being used, that's lithium batteries. The preservation of the energy is one of the old technology, I would say, but the applications we are using in public now because of the cost factor. So the last but not the least is the drones technology and so forth. That's a defense sector. So that will be used. The applications for the drones is not only in defense, it's in the media sector as well. The drones are used for the coverage and these kind of things, but now I think that's being used in the environmental sector also. The small size of the drones, the size of maybe mosquitoes or something, has been basically injected in the environment. You might have heard about the cloud seeding technology. So that's one of the application through these small drones, which they can basically do some stuff which I'm not aware of as of now, and so forth. So these are the emerging trends which I can see here in the post FIFA. But one most important factor which I want to highlight here is that we have, not only in Qatar, the whole region, we have a serious talent deficit. Because since the theme is still going on there, and I would like to contribute for the cybersecurity stuff. So as of now, as of today, when we need around 200,000 cybersecurity professionals in GCC. KSA being the biggest geography, that can take the biggest share of this number, but Qatar is the second highest, where we need such things. And similarly, that goes for the emerging technologies. As our respected colleague highlighted, that the roles or technology roles will be transformed. Before, we used to be network engineers or the system specialist or something. Now those traditional roles are not applicable anymore. People will not get a job even. They need to upgrade themselves with the new latest roles are threat intelligence specialist, the AI implementer, and so forth. So that's where we need to all work and contribute into such forums where we can basically share our knowledge for the freshers or the youngsters, the young leaders to come abroad and start doing what we want them to do.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Imran?
Mr. Ahmed actually covered quite a bit. I'll tell you where I see as an impact of FIFA in the Qatari enterprise environment. So one of first is basically Qatar has a cloud first strategy. The policy Qatar published recently is the cloud first. And in that regard, Qatar has brought in Microsoft, and Google is going to come early next year. And I think Huawei also already have a data center. So what it means is that Qatar's objective of any country is to protect its information asset from leaving the country. And these, like a lot of information from Qatari government entities and as such, because that's one of the biggest technology users, is that the information has to be residing inside the country, right? For the security reasons, it needs to be. And that is going to be achieved through having the data center in here. So it means that there is a post-FIFA, that is going to be a trend that is going to happen. And one of the reasons why it is going to happen is that many of the Qatari executives have been involved in the FIFA, either FIFA 2022 organizations or with the Supreme Authority. They have had a very good professional experience working in a multinational, multidisciplinary organizations that they were forced to work with, which they really did not get exposed to that before this World Cup. And that is going to be transforming many of these executives in terms of their competency and capability level. Post-FIFA, these executives will be spread among all the other organizations inside Qatar, right? These executives who have been there will be taking on positions in many companies. And they will bring that experience, what they have learned, and that will actually initiate a transformation that we are going to see in 2024. Not in 2023, but in 2024, we are going to see that impact. What it means is that there is a lot of changes that we are going to expect to see around the countries in many organizations based on this experience of these professionals. Now, in terms of so there is a cloud that is going to be coming into it, means as Ahmed mentioned that many of the IT professionals, if they are not skilling themselves up, will be impacted by it, right? Because you don't need as many of the network engineers anymore. You would not necessarily have that level of infrastructure residing inside your own premises. But also, the technology that has been used in FIFA will be also in the areas of consumer areas. We are going to start to see a lot of that is going to be moving in. So that drones and other things will be used. There's a lot of testing going on with the drones in the industry, in the commercial areas. There is going to be significant. Maybe that is going to be increasing in that. We might be seeing that in the areas of like sensor and everything. That is going to be increasing among the organizations also. Work culture, I kind of agree that work culture-wise, I don't see people are really going to be just working away. I think that's for the Corona gave us 2 years of that experience, but I think many of the people also started to understand the impact, both mental impact of that, and also the other impact is going to create some level of balance where I see the work and family life balance is going to increase significantly. Means that people will have some flexibility, but it's not that we are going to be all working from home, right? So technology-wise, there is going to be impact, but I think the maturity overall we have seen. So this is what I see, but I only expect a lot more investment coming into the Qatari industries, especially in the government and non-government sector. Also, an increased amount of focus the Qatar is going to provide in the next few years.
Thank you, Mr. Imran. So we are a bit short on time, so I would like to inject the fourth question, which is the second last question, to Mr. Farhan. Mr. Farhan, what are the risks or challenges associated in adopting or implementing these emerging technologies, in your opinion?
Well, it depends on the technologies that you've discussed, but I'll pick one of them. So I guess the big one is AI, right? I think AI is going to be here to stay, and it's going to be in the cloud that's been mentioned, the 5G aspects. It's going to be all over every technology, right, and every element that we can see. And 5G cloud is here to stay. Just to give you an example, Amazon are now using 5G edge computing to implement networking now in operators. So every every cloud provider is now trying to become a network operator as well, right, with their technology. So the whole thing is becoming fused and it's fusing. But in terms of the risks, I guess the biggest thing is the threat to human beings, right, when we talk about AI, right? So I know it's a very, very controversial topic, and you've asked me to do it first, but I won't go all the way. But basically, whether we like it or not, there is a threat to human labor, literally. So all the repetitive tasks that are going to be done by machines, those jobs are gone, right? So one example I was reading the other day was even pharmacists dispensing medication. They literally follow, a rule book, right? Doctors and even GPs. So pharmacists and GPs could be just sidelined with AI because they follow rules and they prescribe, right? That's all they do. So that's a practical example of what can happen with AI, right? So you've got unemployment, obviously, but there's other negatives as well with regards to AI as well. There's lack of out-of-the-box thinking and lack of creativity, right? So how human is an AI? Where's the human touch? The laziness element. We've all got used to. How many people remember anyone's phone number anymore, right? That's a typical one. Nobody. My daughter went out today, and her phone battery went dead, and we were thinking before you used to make them memorize your number, right? You don't do that anymore. So her battery went dead. We couldn't call her. Luckily, we called the Uber guy who spoke to my daughter, right? So these sort of things are practical issues, right? And security risks, right? From a different angle. So I guess there's many other factors like at the same time to implement all these complex systems, there's a shortage of personnel, as we've highlighted. But at the same time, they're going to be far more complex to manage and administer, right? And the problem I was talking earlier about 100 billion, 50 billion or 100 billion devices. And I think there was a question earlier, right, with regards to the one-to-one mapping. It just can't be done by humans anymore, right? So, generally as a species, we're being sidelined because you need machines to, even manage the abundant amount of data that's coming in, right? And it won't be people who will be managing it because it's too much to manage. So you're going to have machines to manage it. So again, there's a bit of a cloud over this whole thing. Adoption is something, reservation is something from a human perspective. But I think, events like FIFA and what have you are just spurring on the movement. Whether or not, I'll just give you another example. Like 5G's been around for like 10 years plus from a standards perspective, right? And in terms of a tech perspective, even Ooredoo was one of the first commercial 5G network in the world, as you guys probably know. And I've been attending these congress every year at the Mobile World Congress, and they've been talking about 5G is coming for literally 10 years. It never came, right? So it's coming now eventually, but again, who's it coming for? And there's a misunderstanding that if people think that 5G is for us, they're wrong. Because how much more speed do you want, right? How much more YouTube video can you get on a 4G than a 5G than a 6G connection? So it's all about IoT, it's all about devices. So it's all going to be in preparation for connecting the billions and billions of devices. So it's just, I'll just give you food for thought in terms of laying the question down from other colleagues.
Mr. Shtaq, the final question to you from our side. You're a cybersecurity business owner. So, in your opinion, what are the measures that should be taken to counter the skill set deficit which Mr. Ahmed spoke about in modern or emerging technologies?
Okay, so I'll give you a practical example for this actually. So even our company also, what we focus more on the fresh graduate and the young generation people, maybe having 1 year, 2 year experience. And what I'm finding actually, which is a very fantastic experience from my personal perspective also, even there had been few projects where I had given to some very fresh graduate, maybe 1 year experience, 2 year experience, and they delivered a fantastic result. So we have to trust our young generation. We have to give them opportunity, and we have to skill them. And the moment they get the opportunity, they're going to deliver the result. Only you have to guide at the higher level. And so this what I'm finding is a very fantastic thing actually. Especially my mainly team are working in the back in Pakistan. So even they are very fresh graduates also, they're very knowledgeable. There are so many people I find who are working in as a freelance business. So their knowledge level even sitting here is not that much that which they are acquired at sitting in those markets like India, Pakistan, or Bangladesh, for example, because they are operating in the global markets there. So what I'm finding that definitely there is skill shortage, but the new generation which is coming up, they are more skilled, more knowledgeable, and we have to give them opportunity. Once we give them opportunity, you will be amazed with the result actually. This is what I have seen personally in few of the projects, and the delivery is quite fantastic by the young generation. So I think we have to trust the young people.
If I may add to the point over there. So on a side, actually, I enjoy the history. And the reason why I enjoy history is that history repeats itself, right? That's one of the things. So this transformation that our society is going through and possibly is going through is significant. With the AI, with the robotics and other things, it's significant, no doubt. But the history is about, if you look back about 150 years ago when industrialization happened, what was the impact from agricultural society to the industrial society? There was an impact, no doubt. But it didn't mean the end of the civilization. It didn't mean the less of a job. It actually, on the contrary, created more opportunity. But the skill set needed to be changed. Whereas before, you just need to know how to plow the land. Now you have to just plow something else. What that is going to be that we have to see. That is competency. So if you develop competency among the children, among the people, the skill set something, you can pick it up. If you know how to learn, you will pick it up. So I'm not really too worried about human civilization and all these things will be gone. No, that is going to be something because we saw that through the history, it happened from the Stone Age to the agricultural age to the changes of that we see. And so we don't have to really I'm not too worried about it. Just focus on what the caretaker over here is doing, is develop the children, develop the next generation, make sure that they have the competency to take it on any skill that they need.
At this point, any questions from the floor, audiences?
Yes, please. Dave, as a common user of IT things like computers or mobiles, my question is for Mr. Ahmed and Farhan. When you mentioned about that cyber attack, and certainly there is a counter of that, and I think which is going on very heavily, presently in Qatar, and in presence of 5G. Do you think that there will be an impact on mobile users or for the computers? The speed will affect or something else?
You want to go first or?
No, you go.
If you want to,
Yeah, sure.
yeah. So in this case, actually, I'll just give you example. Sorry for cutting everyone, actually. So the example will be, normally what happened, the attack of this type can be DDoS attack, for example, distributed denial of service attack. So if this type of attack comes, there are tools available at the governmental level and the ISP levels, which can divert the traffic. For example, there is a communication pipe coming to the country, for example. It has got X size. Now it has got some attack traffic. So what they do actually, they divert this attack traffic to some other pipes. So it will not be affecting the Qatar pipe, for example. It may be diverted to some other locations. So this is the way they mitigate this type of attack. Sorry, and if you want to answer, actually. Yeah.
So I'll just, that's the technical side of it. So, for a normal people, so first, what we need to understand here is in our hands, it's a second level of atomic bomb, the smartphone. We can reach out each and every corner of the world from your handheld device today. That's same way applicable to the hackers or the people who would want to take the evil motive to hack and all that. So it's practically is happening. In the cybersecurity field, we usually say this thing that, the breaches which we usually detect are not dangerous. Those incidents which go undetected are way more, dangerous than, because we don't know what has exactly happened, what has been stolen. So not only the speed, infect your sensitive data inside the phone. And I don't want to scare anyone here if anyone doesn't know. We, being an experts, we can control your mic of your mobile. We can control even the sounds, the content, and your screenshots. We can take it as of now. So this is the very lighter part of what a dark side of this technology, which can happen at the moment today. What I would like to highlight and the more emphasis on what our respected colleague has said. See, the dark side of these emerging technologies are to the extent that, yes, that's the threat to the human lives are imminent. The damage what AI can do to the human life is beyond of our imagination, because now we have created the robots. Robots are asking us to verify, are you a robot or no? So we are giving the control of our lives in the hands of robots, and that's very imminent. We can use one button in order to shoot a nuclear missile now, and tomorrow it's going to be AI enabled and computer will be deciding on our behalf. So since this history is repetitive, one AI wrong algorithm can take us back to the Stone Age. Because at any war today, which is expected to be a nuclear war or whatever, can demolish. So that's exactly, it's the field which is newly named or whatever, which is commonly used term now for this thing is transhumanism, which is with it's robotics, RPA, and everything's embedded within it. Before, we used to take the advantage and applications of robotics for the benefit of humanity, and now we are on the exactly verge of that transformation where robots will deciding our fate. That's exactly we should be worrying about, because any new technology which brings its own risks, that's how we need to tackle those risks. We need to understand that we people have created it. We need to decide this thing, because without that we cannot do by spreading the right awareness around these forums or the related professionals. Go into the institutions, engage with such discussions, and try to learn more. Don't rely on BBC News only. Thank you.
So just to give you a simple answer to your question in terms of the technology, the 5G and the 4G, etc., is just a connectivity layer which has got its own protection. So that layer has its own protection. The IP and the content which goes into that is a separate phenomena. So they've answered your question about that. The bigger concern that we should all be having anyway is not whether the speed goes up and down, is what's already been discussed already. Like all the apps that are on your device that are snooping on you, spying on you, everyone presses, I understand the terms and agreements, but no one reads anything. We've already alluded to that already. So that is the bigger problem of concern for individuals rather than, a speed degradation or something like that. But the ultimate picture from a hacking perspective is, I think, what we're going to be seeing in the next few years, let alone, FIFA will see what happens if anyone does try and attack the event itself. But otherwise, I think the bigger picture is, what's coming in the UK, for example. They're talking about a dark winter. So energy companies, British Gas, being attacked, electricity going down, gas connectivity going down. The pipeline, obviously, unfortunately, got a sabotage at the same time. All of these things coming together, it truly looks like it might be a dark winter in many countries. Yeah, so that's the utility scale attacks are the ones that we need to worry about, which me and you can't do anything about anyway. That's at a political level, so which is another discussion. And the final point I make is, it's a totally different topic, transhumanism. Right? We didn't touch on it yet in this seminar, but the man-to-machine side of this is the next phase anyway, right? We talked about IoT, we talked about machine-to-machine. Man and machine coming together, the fusion of that it gets very complicated after that, because if humans do become transhumans into part machines, then you're looking at a completely different ballgame with regards to what can and can't be done with AI. And we'll leave it there, I think.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I want to conclude by saying we've heard a tremendous amount about the emerging technologies post FIFA World Cup, the risk or challenges associated with these technologies, the measures to be taken to counter the skill set deficit. I think the introduction or